Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Intuitive Angling, and thanks for swinging by the channel and checking out today's video. And guys, today we're going to be talking about the #1 retrieve that will generate the most strikes from a bass above anything else, because the way that you retrieve a lure, as far as the speed that you reel it and different type of actions on it, sometimes it makes all the difference in the world between catching a bass and not. And I want to talk about the primary one that really will trigger bass regardless of the state that they're in. So we're going to get into that in today's episode. I'm also, guys, a couple of housekeeping tips I'd like to go over before we get started. Just like to invite everybody to please consider hitting the subscribe button here at Intuitive Angling. Free and easy way to support the channel. Also, guys, if you want to go to the next level with Intuitive Angling, you can become a channel member. And channel members get private videos every week that aren't seen by the public, and you get some access to my email address for your own personal fishing questions. So just go to my YouTube homepage and click the join button or the membership for information there. And also, guys, real quick, I just want to remind you that we do have my new Block It Power Finesse throwback jig up at Tackle Warehouse now. We've got 3 different sizes, 6 different colors. This is a Power Finesse jig, hand tied with frog hair rubber, like one of the only jigs on the market that has that. Freaking awesome jig, really good in the fall time of the year. So I'll have my Block It Power Finesse throwback jig link in the description of this video if you guys like to order a few of them, so appreciate that. Okay, let's talk about what the best retrieve is, guys, to generate strikes. And I'm sorry to say, or I'm here to tell you that there is not one retrieve that will generate more strikes from a bass than another. It's all relative to the condition that you're fishing. And I'm going to give you some here. I'm going to go over the primary retrieves that you can use to generate more strikes depending upon the conditions that you're fishing. And those conditions have a lot to do with things like water clarity, water temperature, the time of the year, how the fish are positioned on cover. And there's about 3 or 4 really primary techniques as far as how to generate strikes that are above anything else. Now, there's a lot of different ways you can retrieve a lure. You can retrieve a lure from anywhere from just a snail's pace like that to just burning as fast as you can, and then you can put different type of actions and twitches and cadences on there. So it's up to your imagination, but I have sort of narrowed it down to just a handful that really generate a lot of strikes for me that I want to share with you guys in today's video. Okay, the first one I want to show you is what I call the stop and go retrieve with various different type of speeds on those retrieves. Now, there's 3 primary types of stop and go retrieves. You have a slow stop and go retrieve, you have a medium stop and go retrieve, and you have a fast stop and go retrieve. Now, and I'm going to demonstrate here in a second, but the slow stop and go retrieves are something that I use for larger baits, like a larger swim bait or a glide bait, something like that, possibly slow rolling a big spinner bait. The slow stop and go retrieve would be something like this. You make your cast out there, you're reeling it like that, and then occasionally you would just like give it a half turn and then stop it like that. So say, for example, if I'm fishing like a big 6 or 8 inch megabass mag draft swim bait, I might throw it out there, I'm reeling the bait, just a slow retrieve like that, then I'll give it a hard half turn and just hesitate a little bit. And sometimes that real slow retrieve like that, and then you give that half turn and it speeds up a little bit, and then stop it a little bit, sometimes they'll hit that. And you can do the same with different speeds. You can do the medium. The medium would be something like this, a little bit faster, and then go like that, stop it. That would be one aspect that you could probably use for like a crankbait, chatterbait, spinnerbait. If the water is a little bit warmer, just a little bit clearer maybe. And then finally, you've got your fast stop and go, where you're burning it fast like this, and you're burning it so fast that you can't even make a half turn on it. But you're basically just burning it fast and just stopping it, hesitating like that, like trying to get that bait, go boom, stop, boom, like that. Now, this is going to be really effective in 2 different scenarios. It's going to be effective like in really dirty, hot water, like summertime. Say you're fishing a square bill crankbait around the side of a log or around the side of an object. Water temperature is 80 degrees, water visibility is a foot. Sometimes that real fast stop and go retrieve like that is going to work if you have a water that's displacing and moving a lot of water in front of it. The other time with the fast stop and go retrieve would be a clear water situation for something like maybe a buzz bait or some type of a topwater lure. Burning a spinner bait can be really good. One of the favorite things I like to you guys, a lot of people don't, I'm gonna probably do a separate video on this, but I like to burn a swim bait. One of the things that works really good, and I'll get into this later, is taking like a 4-inch, like a Kitech, like a rib swim bait, put it like on a 1/4 ounce jig head, and burn it just on the surface, like fast like that. You know, you're getting that swim bait to come through the surface, and they'll bite it just like a spinner bait. So that stop and go retrieve is a really, really fundamental, important retrieve to master. And I don't hardly ever just reel a bait straight in, as far as just throwing it out there and just reeling it in like that. I'm always doing something with it, whether it be a half turn or stopping or twitching the rod tip. I just think that you don't ever want some type of a uniform action to a bait. Now you can have a uniform action to a bait, maybe for a 1/4 of the retrieve, but at some point you have got to do something different, because on a bait that a fish can track good, you know, like say a big spinner bait or a chatter bait or swim bait or glide bait, you'll throw that bait out there and that bait will hit the water, and you start retrieving it like with a steady retrieve. It's going to attract fish. Like if you throw a 6-inch mag draft on a main lake point and that thing splashes down, there's going to be bass coming over to investigate what that noise do. They always come over and investigate noise. Most of the time they won't hit any bait. It's like, more than not, they'll come over to investigate. You see the mag draft swimming along like that at a consistent speed, and they're following it, they're looking at it. If you don't do something like to speed it up or stop it or a half turn with it, they may never hit it. But if you can get some type of an erratic retrieve on any type of a lure out there, your odds of getting bit are gonna go way up. So I do it consistently if I'm in open water. Like say for example, I'm throwing out on a point that doesn't have any cover on it, it's just a point. I try to do that consistently every 5 or 6 feet. And if I'm throwing it around some type of a target, like I've got a point of grass or there's the edge of a boat dock or something, I do that half turn of that speed up at the point, right at the high percentage ambush point at that piece of target, if that makes sense there. So that's a really good thing to remember there. Okay, another retrieve that is the best retrieve is the burn and retrieve. And there's a difference between the burn and retrieve and a fast stop and go retrieve. The burning retrieve is what you want to use when you're trying to keep the bait right at the surface level. A lot of different lures you can do this with. You can do it with whatever lure. I mean, any lure will work with it, but primarily the burn and retrieve is going to be for some type, like a swim bait or spinner bait or chatter bait. Now the burn and retrieve is done like this. You make your cast out there, and as soon as that bait hits the water, you have to keep your rod tip high, like at 10 or 11 o'clock, and you just start burning it just fast like that. Now you can hesitate it and give it a half turn, but the whole thing is to keep that rod tip high and to keep it moving real fast. And the key retrieve on this is when that bait hits the water on a burn and retrieve, you have to stop the bait with your thumb bar before that lure hits the water. You do not want to throw it out there, your spinner bait, let it hit the water and then start retrieving it. You want to throw it out there, you can see that bait is almost getting ready to touch down, stop it with your thumb bar and start reeling almost before the bait hits the water, because as soon as that bait hits the water, it's moving like that. It's not hitting the water and sinking down and moving. It's hitting the water and it's gone. As soon as it hits the water, you can never underestimate the triggering mechanism that has on a bass. When a bait hits the water and falls down, a lot of times the bass will not react to it. It does not look natural, but if something hits the water and immediately starts moving out, you know, that will trigger a strike, usually within the first 5 feet of the retrieve. So the key on that, again, is keeping your rod tip high where you don't have any line in the water and getting that bait moving before you can get into it. So that's key retrieve. Another key retrieve is going to be what I call the twitch pull retrieve. Now this is primarily done with jerkbait fishing, but I also do it with like flat side crankbaits. I do the twitch pull retrieve with like a Shad Rap crankbait. This is a really, really good method to catch bass in a little bit colder water. Now the twitch pull is something like this. Say I throw my jerkbait out there and reel it down, I'm jerking it like that. And then once I get the bait down to its deepest point, that doesn't matter if it's a Shad Rap, a flat side crankbait, a jerkbait or whatever. Once that bait is at its deepest point, I'm gonna twitch it like that. I'm just gonna barely twitch that rod tip with my wrist just about like that, just barely twitching it, almost vibrating it. I'll do that 4 or 5 times, and then I'll pull it for maybe a foot or two. And then I'll snap it hard, whether it be a crankbait or a jerkbait or whatever. And for whatever reason, this is something that I've just figured out over years and years of bass fishing. When you get that bait down to its maximum depth, whatever it is, and then you twitch it in one spot like that, and then snap it hard like that, that whole thing, snap it, pull it, twitch it, in some type of a combination like that generates a lot of strikes. So those are the primary ones, guys. There's other ones I use, like I said, it just depends on the situation and the lure and what you're doing, but really try to master that stop and go retrieve with a variety of speeds and the twitch, pull, shaking, that type of thing. That's really gonna catch you a lot more fish. I can't think of any lure out there that I just use a straight retrieve or a consistent retrieve. Even like walking atop like a Zara spook or something. It's like, most people are like this, they're just walking this Zara spook like that. I don't ever do that. It's like I'll walk it for 5 or 10 feet and then I'll just maybe do it real fast like that, or I'll walk it for 5 or 10 feet and I'll stop it dead in the water. And then I may go boom, boom, let it stop dead in the water. You don't ever want to condition the fish and let the fish get too good of a look with your bait. That is one of the big things in bass fishing, guys, is you do not want to let the fish see the bait very long, especially if your bait is a little larger and the water's a little cleaner. Now, the smaller bait that you have and the dirtier the water, that's not quite as impactful. Say, for example, if you're flipping a stump and the water visibility is 8 inches and you got a 4-inch black worm on there, that's a little bit different situation. But always remember, as that water temperature and the water clarity also increase, that's when the speed of your retrieve and the erratic action has to increase. It's all relative to that. And you got one scenario where it's muddy, another scenario where it's clear. You got a muddy scenario with cool water. You got a clear water situation with very warm water, and everything in between. You've got water temperatures on lakes. A lot of times these water temperatures are going to vary, 40 to 50 degrees throughout the course of a season. Here in Missouri, we'll get 36, 37 degree water temperature, and then we'll also get 90 degree water temperature in the summer. So when you have those type of temperature variations of a 40 to 50 degree temperature swing, and then you also have a swing in water visibility, every possible combination of the water visibility and the water temperature sometimes dictates a different retrieve. Ultimately, you can use what I just talked about as a guide, but you have to experiment. So don't ever underestimate the importance of just trying something. If you think something may work that they've never seen before, just give it a try and see. I'll leave you one final little tidbit here before we left. I was fishing down at Table Rock Lake a couple years ago in the middle of the winter time. It was barely above freezing. There was ice in the back of the coves. It was very, very cold water. And I was fishing my jerkbait really, really slow, like jerk, pause, and letting it set, letting it sink and everything like that, because the water was so cold. And I was catching a few now and then. But what happened is during the retrieve, I got hung up on an underwater, on a submerged piece of timber. And I'm trying to get this thing off like that, and I jerked the bait real hard like that. And when I jerked it hard, the bait popped off the piece of submerged timber, and it just shot off that piece of submerged timber, and about a 4-pounder came up and just clobbered the thing. So I spent the rest of the day, even in that cold water, fishing that jerkbait really hard and really fast, and wound up catching like 10 or 15 after I started doing that didn't make any sense in that cold water. So, guys, hope that helps you. You just use it however you can, and check in later.